What's up, beautiful souls? Welcome back to another episode of the Soul of Media podcast, where we dive deep into the realms of personal growth, spirituality, raising the vibration of the masses, and yes, a sprinkle of ratchetness for all my ladies in the back. Hi, hello.
Hi, hello.
Welcome back. Welcome back to the Soul of Media podcast. It's your girl Soulful T, where we talk about everything on this podcast with spirituality, personal development, growth, and ascension. Right. And so today we have a special guest. I'm so excited to talk with Nicole. So, Nicole, welcome to the Soul of Media podcast. And please go ahead and introduce yourself.
Yes, hi, I'm Nicole. First and foremost, I'm soul, having human experience.
Yes.
And in this lifetime, I'm on a mission of love. And I have worked as a teacher for 13 years in Germany. And currently, I have moved on from that job and also from the country. And I'm in Ireland now. And
Hmm.
here I opened my company, Love Eyes Spiritual Development, where I serve mindfulness, meditation, teaching, training for adults and kids, and also retreats. And I also have a pen name, Saifa Damia, under which I write poetry and spiritual essays.
Yes, that's so wonderful. Well, thank you so much for inquiring. I reached out to the spiritual network, and I wanted to connect with more spiritual leaders, more spiritual coaches that is helping the masses raise their vibration. That's my main purpose with this platform, is teaching souls how to raise their vibration, how to ascend naturally within their own path. And so we're going to need more spiritual healers and teachers to kind of guide us along that way. So if you can share a little bit about your journey and how you came upon to be a spiritual leader and a spiritual teacher that you are.
Um, yeah, so my spiritual journey didn't start with the awakening or something like that. So it was more like a slow movement
Hmm.
towards it. I think somehow I've always known that there is a world beyond this world. As a child, I was really aware of that, I guess, because I always said God is in everything.
Hmm.
And I didn't understand why I have to go to church to pray. For me, being in nature was praying. For me, being kind to other people was praying. For me, cherishing what I have was praying. And during my teenage years, I wrote lots of poetry, which also included the same uh, worldview somehow. And then, well, life happens. And I think
Hmm.
with moving out of my parents' house, I think there was this phase where I got somehow unsafe and went into people pleasing. So I'm a
Yeah.
recovering people pleaser.
Right. We all go down that
So,
path sometime or
but
another. Yep, I got it.
honestly, I think a lot of people, if not most or everybody, is somehow in a way, because until we understand the feeling and the practice of true love and unconditional living, I think until that we are somehow in that idea of, in order to be loved and feel acknowledged, we need to be a certain way. So I think it was Gabor Mate that said a child will always trade authenticity for acknowledgement, attention, appreciation, or something,
Mm.
something like that. That was not the real quote, but something like
Something
that.
like that.
Yeah. So, and then at some point, life guided me through uh, a job that I never intended to do. Like I never intended to become a teacher, but somehow I became one. And it's so
Hmm.
interesting looking back at my journey. I know we had in Germany, we have this ritual where at the end of the school, when you're at school, you go to uh, what's that called? You go to a place where they help you getting a job, and
Oh,
do this
okay.
test. You do this test, and they
Mm.
tell. So you put in all things into a computer, and in the end, you get which job you are supposed to do, which job you are good at. And I remember that it said um, couples counseling. And when I was a student, like back then, I thought, no way, I don't know.
It's like
And
me?
that
I'm a counselor?
uh-huh. Well, yeah. And then and also somebody told me then, oh yeah, to study psychology, you have to be good at math and all kinds of myths. So then I decided, oh, that's not my path. But then
Mhm.
it's funny how life somehow slowly guided me in that direction, not in uh that direct direction, if you know what I mean, not in this specific direction, but somehow, because now my topic is love, and it was back
Mhm.
then, and I think that's what was shown. So yeah, and so as a teacher, I always knew I wanted to do things differently, and that was my concern in becoming a teacher. I thought like, oh, I'm not sure the school system and everything is quite tight,
Right.
and that was what I was feeling. And so I'm very happy that I found the courage to uh, make the jump and say, like,
Mhm.
now I'm going to extract myself from that. And I think I will always be some kind of a teacher,
Yeah.
but not in that kind. And yeah, so I think my true spiritual connection started with with coming to Ireland. It started with my body not working anymore in the way that I wanted to. I had an inflammation in my intestine,
Oh, wow.
which caused me to be out of work for several weeks. Well, for 3 months, no, 2 months or almost, I think.
Oh, serious.
And yeah, and it resetted my whole system. But now I know that the intestine and the brain is totally connected, right?
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
the interesting thing is I have never been a person who was luckily I had this privilege not to have a depression issue or something.
Mhm.
Um, but when I had this intestine thing, there was a time where I felt so low. I had a feeling of like, why am I even sitting here, right?
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
then my doctor prescribed some prebiotics because that was the only thing we couldn't think of, we could think of. Everything else didn't help.
Yeah.
Um, and then I got some prebiotics, and it was like crazy. The next day, I woke up, I was happy, and I thought, like, oh my God, what is that? And since then, I'm exploring the correlation between my intestine and my mood. And I must say, sugar is a big one. Try to eat
Mhm.
not much sugar, like that really helps. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, so somehow, I don't know, it was like my body had to open this connection somehow, and then the rest came through. So,
Yeah,
if
it's kind of
that
like
makes sense.
healing energies. Yeah.
Yeah, and then it was the vibration of this different country, Ireland. I don't know, I think past life remembrance, whatever, past life
Mhm.
love. So it was somehow kind of the like coming home for me. First, like I
Mm.
came to this country and all my muscles went slack. I was like so relaxed. I walked for
Mm.
hours on my own and I still was relaxed. So somehow um yeah, that played into it. Then a good friend of mine did some spiritual rituals through that time, and I found that really interesting. And I was like very interested in that. And she introduced me to Oprah Winfrey's podcast, and then it
Oh.
was a podcast actually that started started me going deeper. And I really sometimes I sat down with the podcast and wrote in a journal and have like I have this journal. I have it even here. I have this journal. So cool.
Oh,
And there's
nice.
all kinds of gems I have listened through in podcast episodes. I wrote them down and learned from them. So and then the lockdown of COVID gave me the possibility to really go deep and explore myself
Mm-hmm.
uh, in past lives, in yeah, in through books, through poetry. Poetry found me,
Mm-hmm.
arrived, just
Just
arrived.
arrived in your life.
It re-arrived. And then I realized, oh my God, I wrote poetry in my teenage years, and somehow everything unfolded. And then I think I can say the moment when I thought I'd become a leader in that field, how you call it, I think that was during COVID,
Mm-hmm.
during COVID lockdown. And I set up my Instagram account before we had this thing going in Germany where you painted on stones and wrote kind messages, and then you put them out in nature
Yeah.
and people
We
pick it
did
up.
that too over here
Yeah,
in the
really.
US. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah. So we had that during COVID, especially, was really going.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't really understand how it's working. I thought, oh, I just do an Instagram account and then people can post on my Instagram account that they found it. But then I thought at some point I felt like, okay, it doesn't make sense because people can post pictures on my Instagram. So I don't know. And I remember then I sat on the stairs in my apartment at some point, and I felt something was going on in the media again, and I felt so small. And I thought, this is not right. Something has to
Mm-hmm.
change. And I heard in my mind, I heard Michael Jackson's song, uh, "Heal the World." And I thought
Mm.
I thought the world needs something else somehow. And then I changed the name on my Instagram to Only Love Can Heal the World,
Mm-hmm.
and put my little note in it, and it said, "I want to be brave." And I think that's how it started. I felt like I had to do something. I was very afraid, but I had the feeling somehow this is bigger, and
Yeah.
I need to do something. And before I always had the feeling of I'm so small, I can't really make an impact.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but then I realized, well, when I became a teacher, I thought if I can be an inspiration for just one student in every class, then I have like a huge impact and I made a ripple effect. And that's what I was thinking back. And so then, yeah, I jumped and somehow then suddenly it all unfolded.
Yeah, just start all aligning.
Yeah.
Yes, that's amazing. That's really amazing because it's funny how the universe kind of leads you in the path of where you're supposed
Mhm.
to go, but it's not exactly where you think it would be. But it's like it's also preparing you, right? Like you probably learned so much by being a teacher. You
Oh
know
my
what I'm
God.
saying? Like
Yeah.
so much to like teach you and prepare you to for your next step, like for your next journey in life. So the universe is funny like that. It's like, yeah, I know
Mhm.
you want to be here, but you need to gain some skills first, right? And so it takes you on this path and then everything just starts aligning like, okay, this feels like the best next step, like the best next thing for me to do. And I feel like a lot of people had that aha moment during COVID because a lot of people started coming out with different types of businesses and different skills and courses. I mean, it was crazy during that time, but that was the opening for people to explore that. Like, you don't have any distractions, you're not running around in the streets, you don't have to be in traffic. So, this is a time for you to explore your gifts and talents. So, that's amazing that you actually took the leap because it is very scary.
Yeah.
It's like you don't know what's going to happen after you just trust the universe. Like, okay, well, we'll see what happens. I'm gonna trust, right? So that's really amazing. But that's really literally how it goes. It just kind of naturally unfolds for you in the best way. Okay, so let's segue a little bit into your main kind of focus of what you do and what you talk about. Let's talk about love. Let's talk about love, okay? And so, Nicole, tell me, what is love to you? What is your definition of love?
That is not easy to say in one sentence, but
Mhm.
well, um, so I could answer that like this, or I could answer a poem as my
However
answer.
you feel, however your natural way.
Because
Go
I
ahead with the
think
poem.
the for me the most important thing is when I learned what love truly is, I first felt it before I
Mm-hmm.
understood it. And that's why
Mm-hmm.
I think poetry is the best way to approach this. So,
Yes,
yeah, so
please,
that
please
I read
share.
it. I read
Yes, go ahead.
it. Love. Love is the infinite source that runs through your veins and come forth when you let it flow, when you give room for the seed to grow. Love is the never-ending story, the happily ever after that surrounds you with its glory. You are born as love and born to love and birthing love with every step of the way. When you give love away freely and without conditions, you can see the frequent repetition of the waves it is creating. The love that is emanating of your soul's infinite well lives inside your heart, your soul, and every tiny cell.
Mm. Oh, are you done? I don't want
Yeah,
to cut you off.
yeah, yeah.
Oh my gosh, I was just kind of closing my eyes and you read it so just sensually and just so like soothing. I love that. Continue to do that. I know you said you had a podcast before, but even if you just like came back and just read your poems, I think that that would be great because I just like listening to your voice. But yes, yes, everything that you express in that poem, that's what love is or feels like. And it's not this selfish thing. It's like we
No.
all are love, right? Like we all are love. It's not something that you
Yes,
have to have, you know. It's just like you
yes,
are. It just is, you know.
right.
And something that I feel like is so powerful when it comes to love, the most powerful love that you can emanate is that self-love, right?
Yes,
Like
yes,
having
totally
self-love,
agree.
within yourself, and then that frequency attracts more love to you, right? So it's like because you love yourself, the universe is going to give you more things to love, like all the beautiful and wonderful things and wonderful people of the world. Because sometimes when people feel like lonely or they feel like they don't have love or their family's not showing them love, it's like sometimes you have to take a step back. It's like, well, are you giving yourself love? Right? Like, are you like pouring into yourself, showing yourself the love that you would want to receive from others? And I feel like that just changes around your energy immediately. As soon as you start
Mhm.
pouring back into yourself and giving yourself that love, then your perspective starts to change and you can just feel like, okay, maybe I'm not alone. Okay, maybe there are spiritual energies around me that are telling me that it's going to be okay. Like it's going to work out, right? And so that's why I feel like if anything else goes wrong, go back to love. Go back to who you are at your actual natural state and core, which is love. So yeah, so like tell me what has that play, how has love play a role in your life as far as self-love, maybe showing love to others, unconditional love, and like love really teaching you what it is? Because I feel like we don't
Mm.
know right off the bat.
True, and that's what actually one of the first books that I read that really had a huge impact on me was Lovability by Robert Holden.
I'll write that one
It's
down.
such a
Yeah.
good book, and he actually says, "Let love be your teacher," and he has also
Mm.
a very good in combination with Louise Hay. So they were all talking. Louise Hay is all about self love. So yeah, I gathered bits and pieces back then about what love could be, right? And
Mhm,
then
mhm,
I remember also a podcast by Jay Shetty where he said, if you want like a relationship, you have to become it first yourself. That was a huge
mm,
game changer for me, a huge aha. And
mhm,
then at some point I realized I was loved all the time. I just didn't let it
mhm,
in because I didn't love myself. So
mm,
since I've been on that journey and since I've had this understanding of what love really is, I've never felt lonely again. I had times where I felt alone, but not
mhm.
lonely.
Yeah,
And I
yeah.
think and I know that every time I feel alone, it's just because I'm not connected to myself. So
Mm, mhm,
it's that's the only reason. And so um yes, love is the greatest teacher herself. For me, it's her.
yeah,
So I know.
yeah.
Um and um where was I?
You said that just how it's just shown you in
Yes,
different aspects of your life. When you're alone, but not lonely. That's a key too, because we
it
really,
is.
when you think about it, we're really never alone. You know, we're
That's
really
true. Yeah.
never ever alone.
No. So yeah, so there's so many layers to love. And I think the biggest misunderstanding is really that we get love
Mm,
because
mhm,
I don't think it's something from the outside.
mhm,
I think it's something that we already have or are on the inside. So when we are in love with somebody else, um, the other person is just a mirror for our own self love. And there's
mhm.
this Bible verse saying, love thy neighbor as you love
Of
yourself.
yourself, yep.
But
Mhm,
if you don't love yourself, you won't be able to receive that love. Your heart chakra is closed. You won't even be able to feel it. You might know it. You might say,
mhm.
okay, this person said I love you. Okay, and then we get hung up on words.
Yeah,
Then we like kind of attach meaning to the words and say, oh, he didn't say, I love you today. So that means they don't love me, right? So something
right.
like that. And I think um, when we know that love is who we are and love is also a vibration,
Mhm,
which we can, um, being on the same wavelength
mhm.
is being on the same wavelength, like
Right.
on the vibration, right? So if I'm in the vibration of love, I can be with someone else in the vibration of love. And then we are automatically connected. And another game changer for me was that was actually back then I was working with a coach and she had made my view completely different. Uh, I was raised to be with a idea someone else is completing me, or this idea
Mm,
of the better half, or
yeah, yeah.
always um and I always had felt that people were thinking something's wrong with me in phases when I wasn't in a relationship, right?
Hmm.
So it was always like, ooh, you're single. Right. So what's wrong with
So
you?
bad for the single people.
Right. That's so mean. It's like, come on.
I'm fine. Like I'm a fine personal total person myself, right?
Right. Yeah. And actually, it took me a bit of a time until I understood that it's the people's perception of
Mm-hmm.
themselves, and not that nothing is wrong with me for being okay with being not in a relationship, but it's like
Yes.
their fear of being not in a relationship. And yeah, and so the game changer was from going to that missing puzzle piece to
Mm-hmm.
perceiving ourselves as we are whole, like, um, and I like to see it as we are a full circle in ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And I think when we are, and then we are cloaked with all kinds of conditions and beliefs.
Right.
And if someone else comes and hooks into these same conditions and beliefs, then
Mm-hmm.
it might work well like a clockwork, right? So they rub against each other like clockwork, and they might work well, right? That this is
Right, right.
the term. This relationship is working, right? So you're working. It's like, yeah, it works, but there's not this deep connection. But if you are stripping away those layers, and I think loving ourselves is basically stripping away the layers, um, then I think then you have the chance of these circles to overlap, and
Mm-hmm.
somehow even overlap so much that you're almost one circle, right? So, and I think it's phases. I think it doesn't happen all the time. But if you
Mm-hmm.
perceive yourself as whole, then you don't need the other one, but you co-create with the other one
Yes,
in that
yes.
frequency.
Yes, absolutely. That's so key right there. Because, like, when we think of relationships and people like looking for their soulmate or whatever, they feel like they're not whole until
Mm,
they meet that person or they get with it. So they're going on this whole life journey trying to find their other half. And the really is like, it's all within you. Right?
yeah.
Like it's all within you. Everything you need, everything that makes you whole and complete is already in the package, right? You just have to unwrap it, right?
Yes.
Because, like,
Right.
I know a lot of happy, single, older women that's like, I am fine living my life. They travel, they may have boyfriends or whatever here and there, but it's like they don't need anyone else to complete them. And I always feel like that's just like such a whole and just complete state of being because it's like you don't need anyone telling you that, oh, I love you to feel love. Oh, I love you so much. I love you. Just like I love me. Really do love me and completely with no conditions, right? Like if you can look at yourself in the mirror with completely naked and just love everything you see, like that's you just loving yourself unconditionally. Like scars and all, stretch marks and all, whatever it is you have on yourself, that's like on the outside, you know that you are complete and whole already. Like you don't need anything else to add to you. So I feel like that is just so beneficial when we're going on this journey to just figure it out ourselves, right? Just figuring out who we are, our self development. And self love is the best love. Start there, and then everything else kind of start to unfold, right?
Yes, and yeah,
Mhm.
and I think that it goes even more, it goes even beyond the body. Yes, the body is a big part in loving and accepting ourselves, but I think living authentically,
Mhm.
and that means there were so many times where I said yes when I wanted to say no, and I didn't
Mm.
realize that I was betraying myself with that.
Yeah.
And I think Robert Holder mentions his friend John Carpenter saying, "Who I am and what is love is the same question." And I think
Hmm.
I think that's true because
Yeah.
we we need to explore ourselves and knowing who we are in order to live authentically, and we can only live authentically when we dare to not please other people,
Hmm.
and and then I can respect myself and I can love myself. I cannot do it if I override my own boundaries and rules all the time. So
Yeah.
yeah, but yes, I agree, self-love is the key. That's the first thing.
Yeah, that's what unlocks the rest
Yeah.
of it. And self-love too is not like to me where I'm thinking of self-love is like, oh, I love myself just how I am and I don't need to change. I don't
Mhm.
think that
Oh,
it goes together. It's like you love yourself, but you also love that you have areas that you can improve in and you give yourself grace as you're like discovering what that is and learning more about yourself and you're just giving yourself love like a little child. It's like if a baby falls down because he's not walking right, you don't just scold the baby like, oh, why aren't you walking? You give it grace, you give it love, and you give it kindness so that you can develop in the best way. So yeah, I think it's like just not like it's not like you're being delusional, right? Of things that you need to actually confront and change, but it's just like a beautiful unfolding that you're allowing to happen in your life. And that's like showing like true unconditional love, I feel like, with yourself and with your spiritual journey.
Yes, and I think it that takes practice, and
Mm.
I realized, and also to feel this self love is important to really feel it. And I had lots
Mm-hmm.
of struggles with feeling loved. I had the feeling like I can't receive it somehow because I'm a caregiver soul type. I'm a giver. And giving is so much easier. We can control who we give to. We cannot
Mm-hmm.
control how we receive. So receiving is daring. And I at some point I thought, well, I want to keep my heart open. I want to open my heart chakra because I had the feeling I was all closed up. And I made
Mm-hmm.
this little challenge with myself. And I shared it on Instagram back then, and it was called the Love Eyes Challenge, and that's where my
Ooh.
company arose from. Because
Mm-hmm.
I said I will every day, every evening, I will write down the situations and where I felt loved, not only where I
Mm-hmm.
witnessed love and saw love, but where I felt love. Who made me feel loved? And in this way, I understood what makes me feel loved. Um, because I knew about my love languages and everything, but it wasn't the same somehow. So,
Mm-hmm.
and what happened was really magical. I think because I was so focused on love, and what we focus on, we get more of, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I was so focused on love that suddenly everything started to flow and
Mm.
everything looked wonderfully and beautiful. And I was so filled with love by the end of the week. And I think that is it's just a small and little shift and little practice, but I practice it since then, and it makes such a difference. Even especially when there's hard times, I go
Yeah.
out, go on a walk, and I see hearts everywhere, and I know, okay, it reminds me, love is there, love is there, it's there. So
Yeah. Yeah,
yeah.
it's all around us at any time, just like the abundance of grass on the ground, abundance of trees, abundance of cloud, there's abundance of love around us at any given time. So I don't want to take too much more of your time. We do have to wrap
Mm,
up here, Nicole. Thank you
okay.
so, so much for coming on the podcast. Please share your social media and where people can find you, and any last words, encouraging words you want to give to the audience.
Okay, so you can find me on Instagram under Only Love Can Heal the World.
Okay.
You can find me on Substack with my pen name Saifa Damir, or my company Love Eyes.
Okay.
And my website is Only Love Can Heal the World too. Um, you can also approach the website under love-eyes.com. That works too. Um, and what else? Yeah, keep an eye
Any
out. I'm
Yeah, any
soon
advice?
putting any advice. Yes. So I'm soon putting out some books too. So keep an eye out.
Okay,
About
yeah, for
about to
sure.
release a
Poetry
poetry
books,
connect.
yes,
Yes, the poetry
yes.
connection. Any advice? The advice I would give to anyone who is struggling with the topic of love, um, just sit with yourself and find some moments throughout the day where you are undistracted. And that can, I know for lots of people it's busy. It can be only a minute, it doesn't need to be long, but find a moment, put your hand on your heart and feel that you're complete and that you're whole and that you're a wonderful, wonderful person, um, and a wonderful soul, and that feel the space around you and feel that there's something soothing in that space around you, and know that you are loved. because we all are.
Mm. Oh, well, thank you. You are a beautiful and wonderful person, Nicole. Thank you
Thank
so
you. You
much
too.
for
I
coming on.
thank you so much for inviting me. I appreciate it so much, and thank you for shining
Yes.
the light and spreading love. It's what we
Of
need now.
course, we're definitely gonna have to do something again. Some collaboration coming in the coming
Yes.
soon because I want to work with you again. But again, everyone, go check out Nicole, all of her info, and I'm going to end it here. All right,
Yeah.
have a
All
good
right.
day,
Bye bye.
Nicole. Bye
Bye.
bye. Thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of the Soul of Media podcast. Please share the podcast with your friends, family, anyone who you think can get enlightenment from this podcast. Oh, and also join the High Vibe Tribe on Facebook on our Facebook group. And if you want to know when the next episode will be dropping, join the Soul Tribe texting group. Just text Soul Tribe at 844-751-1267. All right, y'all. Just remember, you are magnificent, here to shine your divine light. So stay hydrated, motivated, and elevated. Peace.